for whatever strike, copyright
DMCA.
strike, DMCA.
This is our live audio check before the presentation.
Let me.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
We have no Kevin.
Live audio.
We are alive again. This time without desktop audio.
Oh boy.
Hello.
How does this sound?
This is my voice.
Ew.
Ouch.
Wowee.
So we're called the Runestone Group because our original project was working on
Okay. Thanks for bearing with me for the audio check. Just checking my audio last. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me for the audio check. Just checking my audio last. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. Don't want to get that echo on there. Hopefully that didn't echo infinitely and ruin everything forever. So we're going to go live on the final presentations in a few minutes. To everybody in my class who's watching, congratulations on finishing this process. Please don't forget to fill out your course evaluation. Since you didn't actually learn much in this course, or at least you weren't taught much, please go ahead and commentate since you're near the end of it on the major in general, everything that you've learned so far, all the different platforms and technology that you've liked so far. Did you like using Eclipse? Did you like learning Java? Did you like using Codio or whatever it is that you've used in your different classes? The order of the courses, things you would have wanted to see, things you didn't want to see. You know, whatever you want to talk about, feel free to take advantage of this opportunity. Put it in your review now. And we got a couple more minutes before we're live. To the presentations. We are going to start with our first live presentation, which is the Cool Dudes group, having designed an application for Avery Dennison to conduct some automation. They'll tell us more about that live, and then we'll go on to our 3 pre-recorded presentations. All of those will have a Q&A component I will switch to on Discord. If I remember, I will try to mute my own microphone audio, so you can point that out if I haven't. If you have any questions for any of the teams presenting, including the ones that are presenting pre-recorded presentations today, please direct those questions to the YouTube chat so that we can save those for posterity. So any questions, instead of putting those on Discord, please put those in the YouTube chat so that everybody can see those in the future. Okay. I'm going to go back to the waiting screen. Let Cool Dudes give me the green light, and then we're going to start with their presentation when I come back in a minute.
Take it away.
Can I go? Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Kevin Farragher, and this semester, me, Jared, Massimo, and Thomas worked on projects for Avery Dennison employees. Next slide. Okay, sorry about that. So during the semester, we worked on 4 separate mini projects. We worked on a safety quiz project, acknowledgement project, MOC Action Tracker project, and a historian enclosures trend graphing project. Next slide. And so, as mentioned on the previous slide, one of the projects we worked on this semester was a safety quiz project. This project was done within G Suite and involved in interacting with Google Sheets. And so there are 3 spreadsheets involved with this project. The first spreadsheet involved with this project is the safety quiz responses spreadsheet, which is used to store each employee's quiz scores and store each quiz's submissions. This spreadsheet contains a summary sheet that has an entry for each employee with their quiz scores. It also contains quiz submission sheets that are used to store the submissions for each quiz. Each quiz has a submission sheet to store its submissions from employees. And the second spreadsheet involved with this project is the EHS monthly breakdown spreadsheet, which is used to store the quiz results for employees by department. This spreadsheet contains department sheets with each containing the quiz results for every employee in the department. And then the third spreadsheet involved with this project is the PTNA EHS tracker spreadsheet. This spreadsheet contains an employee info sheet that has information on each employee. Next slide. Okay, so what did the client request us to do for this project with these spreadsheets? For this project, the client requested us to make it so that quiz submissions are processed without manual input. When a new quiz submission is submitted by an employee, the employee's entry in the summary sheet should be updated with their score on the quiz as a percentage, and the employee's entry in their department sheet should be updated with the result on the quiz, which can either be failed, must retake, or complete. The client also requested for the ability to send a weekly email to managers to notify them which of their employees need to take or retake quizzes. Next slide. So, reflecting the client's request for the project, the finished version of the safety quiz project contains the following features. The main feature for this project is once a day. Each quiz submission sheet is checked for new quiz submissions from employees, and they are processed. For each new monthly quiz submission submitted by an employee, the employee's entry in the summary sheet is updated with their score on the quiz as a percentage, and all the quizzes the employee hasn't taken are labeled as no quiz. Also, the employee's entry in their department sheet is updated with their result on the quiz, which is either failed, must retake, or complete. And all the quizzes an employee hasn't taken are labeled as missing. And so if an employee scored below 90% on the quiz, their cell for the quiz is labeled as failed, must retake. Otherwise, their cell for the quiz is labeled as complete. And then also another feature for this project is a menu item allows the client to send an email to managers notifying them which of their employees need to take or retake quizzes at any time. They could send emails. Next slide. Okay, so the finished version of the safety quiz project also contains some extra features not specifically requested by the client. For example, once a day, each employee entry in the summary sheet and each department team sheet is checked for missing quizzes. Also, once a day, new and old employees are checked for. For each new employee, an entry is added for them in the summary sheet and their department team sheet. For each old employee, their entry is deleted from the summary sheet and their department team sheet. Additionally, once a day, it is checked whether employees' department teams have changed. If an employee's department team has changed, their entry in their former department team sheet is moved to their new department team sheet. Other extra features contained in this project include there being a menu item that allows the client to reset the spreadsheet sheets associated with the project for a new year. And there's also a menu item that allows the client to manually process new quiz submissions. Lastly, there is a configuration sheet that comes with the project that allows the client to adjust certain characteristics of the spreadsheets involved with the project based on their preferences. Next slide. And then, so the previous slides gave you a brief overview of the safety quiz project we worked on. Yeah, so another project we worked on during the semester was an acknowledgement project. For this project, the clients wanted a way to consolidate each of their employees' responses to acknowledgements, which would make it easier for them to track who hasn't completed responses to acknowledgements by team and individually. Additionally, when an employee completes an acknowledgement, the clients wanted a PDF of their acknowledgement submission to be placed in their employee training folder. Next slide. So in response to the client's request for this project, we ended up creating 2 different files for the project, which were created in G Suite. The first file we created for the project was an acknowledgement responses spreadsheet, which is used to store each employee's acknowledgement results and is used to store each acknowledgement submission sheet. This spreadsheet contains a master sheet that has an entry for each employee with their result for each acknowledgement, which is either they've completed it, they're missing it, or they're exempt from taking the acknowledgement. And it also contains the number of acknowledgements they've completed and the number of acknowledgements that they've been sent. This spreadsheet also contains acknowledgement submission sheets that are used to store the submissions for each acknowledgement. Each acknowledgement has a submission sheet to store its submissions from employees. The second file we created for this project was an acknowledgement submission PDF generator document, which is used to create PDFs of acknowledgement submissions. And while an acknowledgement submission from an employee is being processed, a PDF of it is created using this document, and it is placed in the employee's training folder. Next slide. Okay, so reflecting the client's request for this project, the finished version of the automation project contains the following features. The main feature for this project is once a day, each acknowledgement submission sheet is checked for new acknowledgement submissions from employees, and they are processed. For each new acknowledgement submission submitted by an employee, the employee's entry in the master sheet is updated by their cell for the acknowledgement being labeled as complete, and by their cell for the number of acknowledgements they've completed being increased by 1. All the acknowledgements the employee hasn't consented to or has taken are labeled as missing. Also, a PDF of their acknowledgement submission is created using the acknowledgement submission PDF generator document, and this PDF is placed in the employee's training folder. And another feature for this project is the clients can adjust the acknowledgement responses spreadsheet to track these submissions for any acknowledgement. Next slide. And then the finished version of this project also contains some extra features not specifically requested by the clients. For example, once a day, each employee's entry in the master sheet is checked for missing acknowledgements. Also, each employee entry in the master sheet is checked to ensure the number of acknowledgements an employee has completed and has been sent is correct. Other features contained with this project include there being a menu item that allows the clients to exempt employees from having to take an acknowledgement. When this is done, the employees exempt from the acknowledgement have their entry in the master sheet updated by having their cell for the acknowledgement labeled as exempt and their number of acknowledgements sent being adjusted. Additionally, there is a menu item that allows the clients to reset the acknowledgement responses spreadsheet for a new year, and there is also a menu item that allows the clients to manually process new acknowledgement submissions. And lastly, there is a configuration sheet that comes with the acknowledgement project that allows the client to adjust or specify certain characteristics for the acknowledgement responses spreadsheet based on their preferences. And this concludes the brief overview of the acknowledgement automation project. That's it for me.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, Jared and I are gonna go next. We already talked about this. This is an automation project. So Avery Dennison switched over to G Suite at the start of the pandemic, so they started using, instead of paper record keeping, they started keeping it in Google Drive. So we needed to develop a way to. Our tasks were developing a way to automatically process responses for safety quizzes, as Kevin said, and send an email to those who needed to retake them, process employee acknowledgements, and the one he did not talk about was pulling overdue items from several spreadsheets. So whenever they have a task that they need to do, they create what's called an MOC Action Sheet, and they have due dates on all of those tasks, and any that were overdue previously had to be manually checked and added to a master spreadsheet.
So a little background onto what exactly we use to make these applications or scripts. Google uses a built-in script editor within Sheets that can interact with other G Suite applications. It uses, I think I already mentioned this, uses JavaScript, but some features may or may not be missing from current JavaScript just based on what Google deemed was more efficient or easier to use, whatnot. So for the MOC Action Tracker, we had to take an initial folder that contains many employee folders. Within those employee folders had many MOC action folders. And within those MOC action folders, we finally had the action sheets we had to check. So what it will do is it will recursively loop through these folders. It will find the specified MOC action lists that fit the spreadsheet Google type. And it'll check if these actions overdue. If so, it will copy them to the master sheet. We had a few issues trying to figure out what to do exactly for this. Based on the one checklist we were given as a sample, we had to run tests off of that, and there were no overdue actions on that. So we had to modify some cell references in order to get them to reflect that for testing purposes they were overdue. Some employee sheets, when we deployed the live version, were not formatted correctly. There was like a weird phantom column where it was on some spreadsheets, it was not on some. So we had to incorporate a few cases in order to get around
that. Our other task was the email reminder for the safety automation project that Kevin did. So basically, there were two spreadsheets that we referenced. We had to in the spreadsheet that had the scores on them. The employees were not paired to their managers, so we had to reference an employee information sheet that would allow us to pair employees to their managers, and then we had to check which quizzes that they haven't finished, and then email those managers with employees that needed to retake certain quizzes. We had a problem with G Suite because it doesn't allow you to send mass emails from a certain account, and it was supposed to be sent from Tiffany's account. So we had to modify the functionality so that it would pop up with a UI of just a list of emails and the body that needed to be sent, and then it copied and pasted it. We could not take a screenshot of the way it worked, obviously, because non-disclosure agreement. So here's a picture of me talking about Google Drive file stream.
All right, so in the course of trying to make these scripts, we ran into a lot of different challenges. One of our first projects that was pitched to us was from a certain employee, and halfway through we weren't able to get the rest of the information to complete the project because she ended up quitting. So we had to go through Tiffany in order to get that done, and surprisingly we were able to produce something that actually runs. Hold on, sorry about that. As Massimo mentioned, the permissions on Tiffany's end of things weren't all up to date. We believe that you could mass send emails. We didn't see an issue with it on our end of testing, but after trying to contact their admin, turns out that I don't even think that somebody's in control of the admin. It's actually Google themselves. So we could not get around that. We had to come up with a lesser functionality way of dealing with that. Google scripting was not fun to use. Their documentation was okay. Oftentimes they had retired legacy functions, built-in functions and whatnot that made our solutions a little bit harder to come up with. You have to jump through some hoops in order to find your execution logs. They're within an entirely different window and application, and you have to insert a bunch of statements that record what's happening. You use console.log. If you wanted to edit a script with someone like working at the same time, it's not really fun like Google Docs where, oh, hey, I'm typing this sentence up here and hey, you're typing that sentence down there. Most of the time, I would make like several different changes, push it, Mosmo would open it up. Hey, these changes aren't here. Couldn't edit them at the same time. Trying to run scripts after changing them, the changes weren't there, so we had to get everyone to make sure they refresh the spreadsheet or the script in order for things to run properly and changes to be reflected. And fun fact, earlier this week, they improved the general crappiness of the UI for the script, and it auto-completes parentheses. Your execution logs are right there in the same window, and just kind of made us sad. Would have been nice to use this the whole semester. It was really hard trying to find errors within a script. For example, I was looking at a script for a long time, reading it over. Mosmo and I would like shift on and off on it, and since some of our script references were specific string variables, a single space is what happened, and since we had to try catch block in that script, it would just exit out and we had no idea what was going on. So just that single space is what was the issue. So remember to always look over your code to make sure everything is all handy dandy and up to date. For some of the scripts, mainly just one of them, we had to sacrifice some of the efficiency of it. Before, we didn't have to pass in values. We just hard coded everything and it ran in under, let's say, like 5 minutes. But it's not good on the client side because if something small would go wrong, then they wouldn't be able to properly maintain the scripts without having to go into them. So we had to sacrifice some of the time to run, but in the end, it makes it a little bit more easier for the client on their end to fix any major problems so it can still run for them.
All right, this is just a picture of the old UI versus the new UI. Just a lot of general fixes that I don't have time to talk about because we're running out of time here and Thomas still needs to go. So lessons learned. This is a picture that came up on Google. I don't remember why, but it kind of fit for this project, so I put it there. So the lessons we learned, you have to create robust testing environments with a lot of different possibilities of failure because once you try to deploy it live, there will definitely be problems that you didn't foresee. You should get all the information from your client as soon as possible and make sure that you record or take notes in every single meeting. You should begin working on your code as soon as it's assigned because, as I said before, unforeseen circumstances can take up a lot of time later, time that you might not have. And you should also be wary of how computationally expensive functions that you're writing are because sometimes it will increase execution time by a large amount and you can't really do anything about it without completely rewriting it. Again, ask about data permissions and access early on, like with our email stuff. Give customers progress reports frequently. At the beginning, we made the mistake of not really telling Tiffany where we are, so she didn't really know what was going on as we were moving, so she didn't know how far we were in projects. So definitely should give progress reports as much as possible. And we did end up replacing with our MOC action script, if it continues to function as it should, basically replacing 70% of what someone's job was. So careful of automation, friends. There's a GIF. Thomas, you're up.
Hey folks, I'm going to try to do this fast because I think we've already taken up quite a bit of time. So obviously a lesson in group projects, if you could go to the next slide. So I was working on the enclosure trend graphing task. The start point was, as you can see in that picture, I basically would get a CSV full of a bunch of different data collected from machines about pressures and when it was running and stuff like that. Obviously it was in a CSV, not a spreadsheet. I just thought that was a better way of showing it. And the intended end goal was to take all that information from the CSV, throw it on one graph so it could be nicely visualized and kind of sent up to whoever it needed to go to. You can go to the next slide, I guess. So how did it go? In bold, I have communication, because that, I think, is really where I struggled the most with this project. I didn't communicate very well with my group members, with the people I was interfacing with, working with, to get this task done. And ultimately, some of the real issues I ran into in trying to get this done is that Google Scripts is complex, and like we saw with the earlier parts of the presentation, is still a changing system. So communication with my group members probably really would have helped me here, as I would have been able to kind of understand Google Scripts more and be able to work on that a lot better. Also, pace. Talking with your group members helps you set pace a lot better as well. Communication is very important. Again, that's why I put it again. And the final thing is specialized tasks. Google Scripts has a very small range of people who actually work on it and kind of talk about it online and say, hey, this is how you fix this error and stuff. So again, if I would have been able to communicate with my group members, I think it would have went a lot better. You can go to the next slide. So what did I learn? Obviously, communication in a work environment, humility in terms of coding and any sort of group project. Obviously, you need to work with the group. That's why it's called a group project. I learned about Google Scripts, and then finally I learned the worst time to ask for help is when it's too late. Luckily, it wasn't too late. You can go to the next slide. Because I managed to finish the task, but not in Google Scripts. Since most of the information and stuff we got from the customer was based out of Google systems, for some reason I kind of had blinders on and focused on that way too hard and then I was talking with MOC just a little, like a couple days ago, and he was like, hey, couldn't you do this in Python super easily? And the answer is yes, I could. So I managed to get the task done in Python, which was makes me feel kind of dumb for all the effort I wasted in Google Scripts. You can go to the next slide. And then finally, I felt like we couldn't end our project without an homage to the mythical fifth task, the Sean project. When we were given all our tasks, they were given to us in a big spreadsheet with different sheets for each of the tasks, with kind of an explanation for the tasks. The final task on there was something called Sean Project. The sheet was labeled Sean Project, and the owner of the task was named Sean. Beyond that, we got no information, and I doubt we ever will. So, Sean, if you're out there, come back home, buddy. That's it.
Okay, thanks guys. If there are any questions for the automation team, again, put those in YouTube. I'm going to wait about 1 minute on the waiting screen if we don't get any questions, and then I'll move on to the next presentation, which is going to be the Runestone group's free recording, and again, feel free to ask questions during the presentation as well. Hey guys, it looks like we have a lot of requests for what is the Sean project? Do you have any more to share with us? What is the Sean project? We have a lot of requests. What is the Sean project?
There is no more information on the Sean project. Literally, all it was a sheet titled Sean project. In the sheet, it said project lead Sean, and then for the description of the task, it said Sean Project. So everyone watching all knows as much about the Sean Project as we do now. Congrats.
Sean Project.
Okay, then with that, we're going to move on to our next group, which is the Runestone group. They'll introduce themselves in their pre-recorded presentation in a moment.
Hello, everyone. This is the Runestone group. My name is Brianna.
My name's Griffin.
I'm Courtney.
And April.
So we're called the Runestone group because our original project was working on the Runestone Interactive open source project, which we learned that it was a lot more complicated than we had originally anticipated. There were a lot of interesting dependencies, and our point of contact disappeared for 3 weeks with no warning. So we kind of came to a point where we had to decide if we wanted to continue with that project or start a new one. So after some discussion with Dr. Garari, he suggested this project, which would help to kind of make following along with professor's code during class a little bit easier.
The project's name is Regurgitate. Now, have you ever been stuck in Garari's class, slaving away with your fingers, typing them at one letter at a time while Garari blazes ahead of you with his gamer reflexes, typing in lines? Well, we found a way for you to catch up, and that's our application that we made. It works very simply. In fact, we'll show you how to do it. So the first thing that needs to happen is that the professor... Go ahead, Courtney, take over.
So me, the professor, I will have created a new repository in GitHub. I will have given that repository URL to my students for them to clone this repository and work in that project. So Griffin, if you want to show them how to clone the repository.
Yep, and what you can see on the left is Courtney's professor, and I'm on the right as a student. So I'm going to launch Regurgitate. This is what the student sees. So we're going to first clone a new repository. We're going to select that. We're going to go to Browse. Now, I already made a folder for us to use. That's the new folder right here. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to submit. And then as you can see here, the only thing that you can do is clone. So we're going to select that clone button right there. It's going to pop out this little menu right there. And once again, the professor should have pre-made a Git repository that the students can then clone by just typing in that URL there, hitting OK. It's going to open up a new terminal window. When that terminal window is done, it's going to close itself, and then you can hit back. Now from here, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to select Student. You're going to browse the file path once more. You're going to go inside of that folder that you made and find the project folder that you cloned, and you're going to hit Open. After you submit that, you should be inside of here. Now I'm actually going to demonstrate our dark mode feature so that it looks a little bit better on the eyes. At least to me. Now back in Eclipse, wait a minute, where's our project? Well, it's actually going to have to be put into Eclipse manually. So you go to File, you go to Open Projects from File Stream, and on the Import Source thing, you can click on the directory. That'll open up a File Explorer. You're going to go to your project folder that you cloned, select that folder, and as you can see here, these two things have a check mark on them already, so we can just click Finish. But I still can't see it. Where did it go? Well, it actually went into your Git repositories section. Inside of there, you can open up the repository. On the working tree, you want to right-click that. You want to show in either Package Explorer or Project Explorer, whichever one you're using. I myself happen to be using Package Explorer, so I'm going to open that up. Now in there, you can see that it added the project there. All that's left to do is for us to open up our driver. And now the professor. Take it from here, Corny.
All right. So as a professor, I will do in the regurgitate program, I will select professor and I will browse to the project that I'm working in. Hit submit. You'll see that I only have a push option. So I will start pushing, and every 30 seconds, any saved work will be pushed up to the repository. So say I'm teaching in class and I'm telling the students how to do a print line statement. So typing that in, I have saved my work, and it will push that up so that way any students that get lost will be able to just pull that most recent copy down to theirs.
Oh no, it isn't working on the student's end. Well, let's fix this. So inside of our regurgitate, you can see we have two options here. We have diff. Let's look on that, see what it does. Diff will open up a new menu, and it'll show us in red what the professor has, and in green what I have. This is useful because if you want to copy and paste from here into your code without necessarily taking everything the professor has, you can do that. But we don't care about that here, so we're instead just going to pull it. Now what that's going to do is back in Eclipse, you can see everything that I had changed to everything the professor has. And that's how our program works. It just works. Now, does anyone want to say anything to cap off the video?
Just use the program. It'll save you time.
And that's our motto. Over and out.
Okay, have we got any questions for the Runestone team? Again, I'll wait a minute in the waiting room, see if there are any questions for them. If so, I'm going to pop into their Discord and direct those questions to them directly. Comments like really cool, obviously always appreciated as well. Good job, guys. People think your thing is cool. Awesome. Too bad he didn't show off the original Runestone. I'd love to see how great that was. Alright, I'll be back if you have any questions. Otherwise, when we next return, we're going to look at BoxGang's presentation on a QR code scanner application thing. Well, you'll see more about that soon. Hey guys,
What's up?
you want to
Hey.
answer that how does it do the git commands question?
Yeah, I can answer it. How does the audio work for it? Okay, is it playing right now?
Yes.
I think it is. Okay, so for the git commands, what we do is we're in Java, so we use the runtime.exec command. So just any commands that you type in there, we'll just type them directly into the command prompt. So that's basically all it does. Is you have to have git installed, and then it'll open up the command prompt for you and just automatically write those commands in there and do everything from there.
We also have different, whether you're not, because we're using it with the command line, we have different ways of doing it for different operating systems. Currently, we only support Mac and Windows, and it determines what operating system you're using automatically.
Linux users, you hear that? You're not welcome here. Okay, guys. Great presentation. Thank you for those comments. Now we are going to go to Boxgang's presentation.
For our project, we were tasked with updating the system in which orders are packed within the Avery Dennison warehouse. Currently, this process is done entirely on paper, and because of this, a large margin of human error is present regarding the items picked and the quantities of those items. Sometimes, clients were getting too many or too few of an item they had ordered. Our program seeks to reduce some of this risk, along with creating a more modern system for logging past orders. This introduces what I believe to be the most difficult portion of developing our program: finding a balance between preserving the efficiency of the process and reducing the margin for error. If we forced the user to scan each instance of an item individually, over or underpacking would virtually never occur, but the process would take several times longer than it does now. Packing too quickly, however, would do nothing to eliminate the margin of error. As you will see soon, we opted for an approach very similar to the current paper method, but with a few notable improvements. We began developing this project using a scanner API, thinking that users would be using the average handheld scanner. However, after a tour of the facility, we decided that this was not going to work. First of all, we didn't have one of these scanners to work with, and even if we did, we would be unable to share it between team members. Second of all, its programming was just too unfamiliar to us. Because of this, we then started using the Xamarin SDK, so that any Android, iOS, or Windows device could run the program. However, this too became problematic when we realized that this was out of the scope of our collective skill sets. So we finally settled on running on Windows only. The current version of the project is optimized for a tablet-based Windows computer, as we built it on the Universal Windows platform, commonly referred to as UWP. What this means is that our project looks a lot like a standard application found within Windows 8 or 10, usually obtained from the Windows Store. The designs of such programs are usually very minimalistic and optimized for touchscreens, resulting in them being very easy to use and look at. All of this time deciding on a final development method for our project did cost us some time, but in the end, I think we as a team made the choices we had to.
So I spent most of my time working with the different main page functionalities, and the two kind of biggest things that happened with that were parsing the actual orders to get the different item information pieces, and then setting up kind of like a primitive logging system. So first we started with parsing because obviously having to do something with the actual orders was kind of integral to the whole application itself. One of the issues we ran into pretty early on was that we didn't have access to the actual file or the order processing system, or we weren't 100% sure either the base format of how those files were being made, and we didn't have access to where those files were being stored. So we kind of had to improvise back and forth. Our contact Bill we ended up talking to, and originally we were going to work on parsing the raw CSV files with all of the order information. So I made this helper that gets rid of all the extra information on the order sheet, takes out the header with the overall item information, and it just pulls out the specifics for each item and what we needed to display. And it ending up in the list. That was working pretty well, but then we still weren't 100% sure because the CSV files were kind of being delivered inconsistently. Their format was kind of weird. And so we talked with our contact a bit more, and we decided to instead try to parse a text file instead of the CSV, because when he would give us a sample or two, those seemed to stay consistent across the board and a bit more predictable in general. And so I ended up having to go back in and rewrite the whole class. And involved in it, there's a ton of regex, but while it's a little heavy, I think this allows for a bit more flexibility. I think, too, the actual code I wrote is actually a bit smaller, maybe a bit tighter. Although there are some quirks in it that are still yet to be detected, just because we were testing the parsing with a very small sample of actual order sheets. And so since we didn't have a sample size of like 20, that might be something that another team might have to work out and kind of clean up a bit more. So that was kind of the main purpose of the main page, just getting that ready. But like I said, we also did implement a very simple logging system. And so earlier I mentioned that when I pass in the text file of the order sheet, I remove the header from it, and the header contains things like the date of purchase, like who purchased it, that kind of stuff. And I basically, in the app data folder of the file, because you can only access local storage, there are some weird permissions with Windows that we were having a bit of trouble with. And even now we were still having like some issues even later into the game trying to get it implemented. So app storage was kind of the best thing we could do for it. We ended up creating a log file and putting it in that local storage. And so it just takes that header, and when you select a file to display list of items to scan in, that header will get added to the log file as is. And unfortunately, it is a bit primitive right now. We just had a few other features that kind of ended up taking precedence over that one. But ideally, in the future, we would have it set up so that it does this initial header, but then as you're scanning like individual items, it would be able to also add those after the log file. But that was kind of the extent of what I worked on, and then the rest of it was just kind of us working together to get everything a bit more organized. So then from there, it should take you to the order list view page, which Spencer can talk a bit more about.
Our order list gives us all the information we need about the items on the order sheet. There's no method in Xamarin like repaint is in Java, so to refresh our list of items, we must set our item source to null and then back to the observable collection. If an item has already been scanned, you will see under the pack column a check mark. If it has not been scanned and you click on it, it will take you to a new page confirming the name of the item you want to scan. As a group, our original intent was to have the picker scan an item however many times it took to fill the quantity of an item when filling the orders. So if the quantity ordered was 5, you would have to scan the item 5 times to show that they have all been picked. After talks with Bill at Avery Dennison, we implemented a button that allows you to scan one less than the remaining quantity. So this makes sure you have to scan the item at least one time to fill the order, but adds a lot of room for error. Say you had 6 items to pick. If you hit the enter quantity button at the bottom, you can enter 5 and then scan one item and be done with the scanning. The default ZXing scanner we were using gave us a UI with a red line across the middle of the screen, and the top text and the bottom text had a gray background. This made it so it only looked like the middle of the screen was focusing to capture the barcode, when in reality the whole screen was being used to try and focus. We got rid of this default look to give the UI a better feel. We also included a UI to show how many items you have scanned and still need to scan, as well as the name and the location of the item. Once an item is completely scanned, you will be redirected to the list of items to scan, with the list update to show you that you have completed the scans for this item.
Okay, thank you to the Box Gang. Again, I'm going to pause for a minute for questions. Great presentation, guys. If there are any questions, I will join you in the Discord channel for your team to redirect them to you.
Hello.
So somebody asked, what made you go with UWP? Was it a good choice for making a Windows application?
Honestly, we were gonna make it cross-platform. Honestly, we were
So ultimately, what happened is we originally thought that it was going to have to work on a number of different platforms. Like originally, we were thinking, okay, it might end up on Android, it might end up on Windows. So, what is the best platform to use for that? So, we ended up going with Xamarin just because it had functionality for Android, UWP, and Mac. So we didn't go with UWP specifically for Windows because we liked UWP. Um, that was just kind of what was available for the cross-platform thing that we were trying to develop. And then ultimately, by the time we decided we weren't going to worry about the other platforms and just focus on Windows, we were so far into having a UWP project that we just kind of stuck with it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And how about that second question? Was it a bit daunting at first, working with a barcode scanner?
Yeah.
There
was a lot of testing.
Yeah, I would say no, though, for the daunting part. There was a lot of testing, but
And it worked.
the scanning we used was a pre-made thing, which really only takes that little number you see underneath the barcode and gives it back to us. So it looks a lot more complicated than it is.
Yeah, I think if we originally we thought we were going to end up with like a separate hand scanner, and I think if that's what we had ended up doing, it would have been a lot more terrifying to get started with. But once we switched to this current like plugin we have, it was actually done pretty quickly. I think it was one of the first parts that we had, and then from there it was just Graham and Spencer kind of tweaking what that scanner actually looked like.
Okay, thank you guys. Any parting comments?
No?
Not for me.
All right. Thank you to the Box Gang for their presentation. Now we're going to move on to our final presentation from the Safety Inspectors, another application for Avery to facilitate the inspection of their various safety devices around the facility. So take a brief break. We'll get right into that.
Scrum Master and the Hello, everyone. We are the Safety Inspectors team. I am Chase Mears, and I was the Scrum Master and the point man for our team.
I'm Nathan Bisheimer. I was the QR developer.
I'm Matthew Angie. I was the Google API developer.
I'm Mark Beebe. I was a Google Sheet scripts developer.
And we spent this past semester developing a more modern solution to a paper-only inspection format at an Avery Dennison factory. So in order for us to highlight all of the work that we've done this past semester, we've decided to demo our completed project to you today. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to open up the QR code scanner that we've made.
Starting the program, you can see there's only two buttons and drop-down bars that correlate to them. The top is the camera drop-down bar. It should have all available cameras on your device. For the Windows tablet, it should have the front and back-facing camera. Once you select your camera, press the Start button, and below it will open up a box with the camera display. If you use your camera to scan a QR code, it will send you to a link of the QR code on your default browser. If you choose not to do it that way or the QR code is damaged, there's a manual selector at the bottom that correlates to a Google Sheet somewhere else. And then once you press the Go To, it will also take you to the link.
I will now display a QR code that should take us to the form. We can see here that here is a completed form. but also if there are any issues with the QR code scanner, we do have a manual for fixing any issues or to figure out how to actually use it if any issues come about. So I will now go through the process of filling out the form. One of the key things is it will automatically collect the time and date of the inspection. It will also collect, it should also manually or automatically collect the email. And the ladder that we're going to inspect today is 133, and the location is somewhere, misspelled. It's a podium ladder of some kind, and it's made of aluminum. And this thing is all kinds of messed up. It has all of the issues that it could possibly have, that our ladder could possibly have. We're just going to click all of these. It's all kinds of messed up. Then we're going to go here, and we're going to say that it's been tagged and it needs to be removed. And then we're going to add a file. I'm going to just take this. Here's an image of it, and we're going to upload it. And then we're going to press submit. After that, it's done. We can fill it out again if we need to, but otherwise we can just close out of this, and then we're going to go to where the response goes. So, as you can see here, up at the top, you can see that this is the latest one. It was submitted a couple seconds ago by me. You can see it has all of the information that we just passed in, as well as some extra stuff at the very end.
So at the end, for the name field, we were taking into consideration that the Avery employee emails are in the format of first name dot last name at Avery Dennison. So we use the email to get their name. If the email does not contain a period, then as you can see, we just use the entire left side of the email before the @ symbol. This is a way to make life easier for the person filling out their inspection forms so that they do not have to type their name in every single time. And then we also copy the email and time of inspection to the end of the sheet for VLOOKUP purposes and the inspection date checker spreadsheet.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to look at is the inspection date sheet. This is a sheet where all of the information from any responses that are filled out here go to here. It makes it very quick and easy to look up a specific ladder or any item that was inspected. So right here you can see this is the inspection that we just did. It has the current date, my name, all of that information. So what it'll do, or what you have to manually do, is put in the number or the name of the inspected item, and then there's special VLOOK code that we made to do all the calculations to find like the location based off of the number, as well as the date and the inspector with their name and their email. And there's also an inspector tracker for each of these that you can look at, and here's what this looks like.
The inspector tracker consists of simply 3 columns. The first one will contain the email of the employee you will be searching for. The second column uses array formulas to find the number of inspections they performed in this month. As you can see, I inspected 0. That's because my last one was in November, so it only works for this month. And then last inspection performed also uses just more array functions to return the most recent inspection that particular employee has done.
And if at any point any of these break or you need to set up a new form or something like that, there is a tutorial guide that we have for pretty much everything that we've outlined here. There's stuff for creating a new link, for creating a new form, and setting up its response sheet. All of that is outlined here. It makes it very easy to set up a brand new form for inspections. At this point, we will take any questions that you have in the chat or on the Discord. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for that. Safety inspectors, our final team. So please put your questions in chat, and I will go into Discord and bother them with them. Okay, guys, you didn't get any questions, but is there anything you'd like to say live for your finishing comments?
I would like to say I hope that our contact will be able to use the application and the tutorials and all that we made for them, and we hope that it will help help make the process of distributing these forms and all of that more quicker and more modern.
I would also say thanks for the opportunity to work with the company and the excellent costume I received from touring the facility.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, that concludes our presentations for today. You have any final comments for any of our groups? Please leave those in the YouTube chat. Otherwise, we thank you for tuning in. We thank all of our sponsors for mentoring our students for these projects. And I do echo that sentiment that we hope you find their labor useful, helpful, functional, everything good that software can be. And to all our students, we wish you the best of luck finding gainful and wonderful employment out there in the real world as you come upon the end of your time here at John Carroll. Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and I will not see you next time. Bye, everybody.